Hi.
Hello, Carol. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. So what do we have here?
So this is our main clinic, Westlands, and we have our treatment rooms in here.
Hi everyone, this is Radull Live. Thanks for joining us. Today we are on location and we're going to learn a bit more about physiotherapy and its importance towards Kenyan sport. So joining me today is Aniksha Trivedi, a physiotherapist. Hi Aniksha.
Hello, Carol.
How you doing?
Good.
You're not just a physiotherapist. You are a physiotherapist heavily involved in Kenyan sportsmen and women. Tell me first a bit about yourself and how you got involved in how you decided I'm going to be a physiotherapist.
I've always been passionate about sport, and of course, as I wanted to choose a career where I can work in sport, and at the time I chose physiotherapy, which involved a lot of hospital work, but I specialize in sport, and here I am.
And here you are. And what's the importance of physiotherapy in the world of sports?
Physiotherapy is extremely essential when it comes to post, in between the journey of the athlete, and it comes from sort of recovery to preparation to making sure the athlete is injury free, because the longest time the athlete can be injury free, they're going to perform at their best.
Yeah, and this is something you've been doing. How long have you been with the Kenya national team or supporting national team athletes?
So I've been supporting them ever since my time in Kenya, which is about 4 years. And I was officially on the national team this year for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
Ooh la la! And we had our best athletes at the Commonwealth Games.
I worked with quite a few of them. Luckily, I was in the athletic side of it. So from all the long distance athletes to the sprinters, just preparing them, being sort of pit side around the track, making sure they're ready for their race.
Okay, and you were telling me earlier that some of the experience you've had. Tell us a bit about the experience you've had in physiotherapy before you even came to Kenya.
So obviously I practiced in England before I moved here, and that was for 5 years. I did my hospital rotations like any other physio would. Went ahead to specialize in sport and started whilst I was in university working with Stoke City, the academy team, and then as I moved to London and was working there, I worked part-time at Spurs and Arsenal in the academy with the kids.
Arsenal, I'm jealous. with the kids though?
Yes, of course, academy, the ones that they prepare that will go to first and second team.
But that's so important. It means that, okay, maybe not in Kenya, but internationally, this is a service that is required from the minute you become a sports person, not only when you're actively performing as an adult.
Correct, and I very much believe obviously practice makes perfect. So as soon as a young child decides they want to specialize in a particular sport, that sort of investment and specialty is very key in them becoming pro.
So this clinic here in Westlands, you have, you have how many clinics in Nairobi?
So we have 3 clinics. This is Westlands. We have one in Village Market, part of the VMX gym, and one in Karen as part of the First Power gym.
So when you decide you're working with an athlete, do they only come here when they're injured, or is this part of them preparing for big races? What's the procedure in terms of when you first meet an athlete that you've been asked to work with?
So obviously, as it sounds, you see them when they've had an injury, but over time, as I've been seeing them and educating them, I do tell them that this is something you need to use more as a prevention as well. So a lot of the pre-preparation even before race, and I have a lot of athletes who come in every week, every other week, just to check that they're doing okay. Is there anything that's, you know, aching, hurting, that they can resolve before it gets to an injury, which is very vital, and I recommend highly.
What sort of injuries do you see most, like in the runners? You also do you work with footballers, rugby? Which other sports do you work with? And what sort of injuries do you see in a runner, for example, than a basketball player?
Correct. So obviously injuries are specific to the sport. I have had the privilege of working with athletes from all sorts of sports in Kenya, and all ages as well, from the pediatric to the adults playing in that sport. So it very much varies. With tennis, it's more the upper limb, the tennis elbows, etc. With the athletes, obviously the hamstring strains, hamstring tears, Achilles tendon is very common. But again, depends in long distance to the sprinters, football, rugby again. So it's very sport specific, but there is a common area where they all sort of have common issues.
What advice would you give athletes to look out for as they train? Because I know that, especially here in Kenya, they used to working through injuries.
Yeah.
We literally, and I know this is from the football world, you get a you work through the injury. What should an athlete, what should a footballer or a rugby player or a basketball player look out for and think, this is not something I'm going to get over? It's not a sprain that I can treat by myself at home.
Yes, for sure. To your first point there, I mean, it's a lot to do with psychology. And the reason why athletes push through, I mean, sport is bread and butter to a lot of our athletes. The moment an athlete finds out they're hurt or they're injured, they have that fear that they're going to be out for a couple of weeks, it might be months. So they'll push through that injury. But again, it's very important, and I tell all the athletes, signs of your body feeling fatigue, persistent pain, reduction in your performance. These are all signs that you're not at your optimum and something needs further investigation, and that's when you either see your physio or your coach and see the way forward.
And stop being a doctor yourself.
Dr. Google.
Dr. Google has got so many people in so much trouble. So without invading anyone's privacy, those athletes you've worked with who you can talk about?
Of course, one of the most common person, and you must have all heard about, is Helen Obiri. I had the privilege.
Yes.
I had the privilege of sort of being part of her journey only 6 weeks before the Olympic Games, where she picked up an injury, and it was quite difficult to know how she's going to perform and be able to run at the Olympics. And the very dedicated athlete who did exactly what we told her to do came for her physio sessions and went and won silver for Kenya.
So you can say you contributed to that.
For sure.
But it just shows that we have to use the advanced technology. I know there are people who are against technology and they're like, but everybody can run. But if you want to get to the highest level and win medals at the big competitions, you can't ignore technology. You can't ignore physiotherapy. For
sure, for sure. Not only in physio, in all levels of sport, because I've worked at that level. I can see that there's that gap, and we have so much talent in Kenya, and if we just give them that extra 5%, it's going to add to almost 100% to their performance, which is so important for them.
Let's talk a little bit about cost, because I'm sure that keeps a lot of people away from seeking such professional advice. If an athlete was to walk in here, what are we looking at, or how can they get around the cost issue?
So a lot of the athletes who come and see me is always through recommendation, because I do have a lot of coaches, managers that work with me. So the more privileged and advanced athletes always have that upper hand, and the manager pays for their services. But of course, our services are open to all athletes out there, and you have something niggling, you need to ask me a question. Reach out to me personally and we can discuss the options, but it's very, very affordable. We do give subsidized treatments for a lot of the athletes and support you through this journey.
So they mustn't be afraid and say, hey, your boss, your person.
No, I'm sure if you hear from the athletes I treat, they will tell you I support them a lot.
That's fantastic, and thank you for that. I want to ask, there's something I keep hearing, especially in in football, pain medication, and we see athletes, they're injured, but their coach, and this is even in the English Premier League, something as big as in the English Premier League, they take pain medication to get through a game. How does that work? Is it something you recommend? Does it make an injury worse if you just take pain medication? This is not me who wants to understand it, because I keep hearing it and I don't.
So obviously, I mean, you're not only just performing for yourself, you're under a lot of pressure. And in Premier League football, it might be the final game of the season where you're a key player in the game and your manager needs you to perform. As long as it's not a life-threatening injury or a fracture or something serious, and it's something that you might do with an analgesic or an anti-inflammatory, that would make it worse, it's okay to take. But again, if it's something where it's a little bit more serious than that and you're going to work through the pain, it might lead to a bigger injury.
And I gather you wouldn't recommend it long term.
Of course not.
Don't do it for every
because you're only masking the pain but not dealing with the problem.
With the actual injury.
Correct.
Absolutely. What's the benefit of acupuncture? I've never tried it, I'm afraid. I hear it's addictive.
Yeah, acupuncture is great. I mean, it's obviously Asian medicine and it's very popular in the world now. It works in a lot of modalities that we use for muscle recovery, nerve pain, lots of other things. But the way you use it in conjunction with other treatments, it has a great effect.
Okay, just just one personal question. Which sports did you play?
So when I was schooling in Kenya, I did do a lot of sports, but more so I did play badminton, squash, and did athletics. So I did continue to pursue athletics in university and was on the Bucks League together with squash. But then obviously after I specialized, I just have not had the time.
You had to get a real job.
Of course.
Yeah, well, that's a bit sad in Kenya. Well, not in your case, because you're obviously doing something with sport and I can see you love what you do. But I see a lot of our sports people are forced to get real jobs because our sports don't pay. But that's another story for another day. I want us to take a break. When we come back, I want you to show me around. But if there's anything else you want to tell me, you'll tell us while we're walking around.
Sure.
Yeah, but thanks for having us today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to show you some of the equipment and see if I can remember anything I learned in biology. Break.
First to buy a land for my family first. Juu kwetu hatuna shamba yetu ni kidogo tu, just a quarter, and we are a family of 11. Yeah. Then alafu after that I build a house, alafu zingine I can start a business and know how to manage it well. Ni ile nilifurahia lakini ningepika nduru, lakini nilikuwa na msee fulani hapo hivi mmoja tu peke yake. Sasa nduru hakuna mtu mwenye angesikia. Sasa kabidi tu nimenyamaza na nilikuwa nasikia tu raha.
If you could go back to school and study again, what would you like to be? Because you can do that now.
Be a quantity surveyor, yeah. Yeah. That was my dream.
To be a quantity surveyor?
Yeah.
So you can go back to school and achieve that dream.
I know.
I wish you all the best. Congratulations. Welcome back. So we are at the Proactive Physiotherapy and Wellness Center. And now it's time to actually go and see what happens here. We're of course still with Aniksha Trivedi, a physiotherapist. So let's go check it out.
So this is our main clinic, Westlands, and we have our treatment rooms in here. So we have 3 treatment rooms. I'll just take you through.
This doesn't look like a normal massage parlor.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, obviously more physiotherapy focused, and a lot of the machines we have are more sports specific, what we use in competitive high-level sports.
So what do these machines do specifically? Explain to me what physiotherapy is and what you do.
So physiotherapy is sort of rehabilitation after injury. Can be preventative, but if you're working in a sports environment, we try and do a lot of pre-post recovery, just preparing the athlete for competition, trying to keep them injury-free. So some are based for treatment, some are based for recovery. We have Shockwave here, which is more. This is a device used for tendons. It works specifically for healing around tendons, which our athletes, a lot of the high-level sports experience, like the Achilles tendon, etc. So we use this a lot for that. This one here is Human Teca. This one specifically is used for preventative recovery. I took this myself to the Commonwealth this year for the national team to help the athletes prepare for the race. So this one is great for our athletes. This one is a muscle stimulation, just preparing athletes and their muscles to keep going, but we use it on normal people as well, so it's not necessarily specific for sport.
So this does what?
This one helps the muscles recover, try and strengthen if they've had an injury, and just give them a little bit of that boost before they go back to race when they've had an injury and the muscle has atrophied.
Oh, wow. And these, what ointments do you use?
So I'm not a specific person who uses anything specific and prescribes things, but obviously we have the Human Teca products that we use for our treatments when we use the Human Teca, which is like an electrolytic emulsion. Biofreeze is great for athletes. We have this spray and gel which you can easily spray on.
Is that like, because I see athletes going into like ice baths.
Correct. So more cooling, easy to use because you can spray it on. We do a lot of acupuncture, dry needling, so we put these in just to get blood flow and healing around muscles.
One day when I'm brave enough, I'll try acupuncture.
You should, it's not that bad. So
I'm told it's addictive. Is that true?
Yeah, it feels good.
Okay.
So we use all these modalities in conjunction with each other.
Okay. So you were saying that you took this to Commonwealth Games. So you work with the national team.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
So I do privately treat a lot of the athletes and support a lot of the national team players, not only athletics, but basketball, tennis. And I treat them whilst they're training before they go to competition. But this year specifically, I went with the team to Birmingham, and I was there for 2 weeks trying to be with the athletes and provide physio for them.
To make sure they're in tip-top shape.
For sure.
Okay, this looks like a doctor's office. That looks like it's for x-rays and...
It is. Of course, if you do come with a scan, it's very important for myself to have a look at it, to make sure I'm not missing anything and ensuring that I know what's going on. So MRIs, x-rays, all that, we can have a look. We do a consultation before we actually see you and decide on the treatment of what needs to be done.
Okay, and you have bone models.
Of course.
Oh, I feel like I'm in a biology class. This takes me back to school.
I highly believe in the fact that if you educate your patient on what's going on in their body, they're more likely to look after themselves better. So I use these to sort of explain to them what's going on anatomically, so that they're able to go and understand what might work in terms of their physio exercise after for their healing.
Okay, and what are some of these? I know that looks like metatarsals.
That is the foot. Well
I
done.
paid attention for exactly 2 minutes in biology.
This is the shoulder blade, clavicle, humerus. This is the most important, which is a little bit of a vertebrae. People who suffer with sciatic disc protrusions, etc. So this explains exactly what that is. Very common area that gets injured, the knee. So of course we have that coming in. So
And that's the back.
yes, that's also a model of the back. Just the vertebrae with all the discs, the spinal cord.
Biology is not my favorite. Are all the rooms the same? What else do we have here?
They're pretty much the same.
They're
Yeah, this
pretty much
just
the
has
same.
good light, yeah.
Ah, okay. So, what's your training in?
So I did BSc in physiotherapy in England. I trained about 9 years ago. And then I went out to specialize in sport, obviously did my rotations, etc. And then obviously I moved to Kenya for family circumstances, and that's where I explored more into athletics, which is now my passion.
And then got into the national team.
Yes.
What's the importance of this technology for our athletes?
Physiotherapy keeps changing, and it's moved on a lot from the hands-on approach, because you want to go a little bit deeper into those structures and get to the root of where the problem is. So a lot of these machines go where our hands cannot go, and I'm a huge fan of manual therapy and massage therapy, which is very important for our athletes. But when there's an injury, when they're preparing, when they have all this, and I've worked in very high level sport, this is what takes you that next step and adds you a little bit more to the athlete.
Yeah, and are we consuming it as a country a lot? As in, yes, you've worked with the national team, but I know one thing our sports suffers from is funding, especially when it comes to clubs and individual athletes who are not on national team duty.
Yes.
Can they afford? Do any of them come? Can they even afford this?
Yes. So I mean, because sport is my passion, and I really highly appreciate when you perform at that level, and I've been part of that journey. So we have a lot of subsidized treatment, and I provide a lot of free treatment to our athletes. We are part of quite a few organizations, charitable as well, like Build Sports, which does basketball in the young athletes. So for us, it's more about seeing that athlete grow and become better. So I definitely do support you, and we have a lot of athletes seeking our services. So definitely affordable.
and for Wananchi like me?
Yes, of course. We have various treatments which are affordable for most people. I mean, health is a priority, so what you'd spend on a meal out on a weekend is what you'd spend for one session of physio for your health.
Really?
Yes.
That's very new. Because the impression is that this is out of my financial reach. That's
Yes.
the impression.
Yes.
But it's not.
No.
All right. And then, where I should be going every day, but I do not. This you test the athletes where they are. This is to...
Yes, it's for everybody. After an injury, I mean, any active individual, you need to get back on track. You need to have some sort of baseline. And physiotherapy is backed up a lot with exercise science. So getting those muscles moving, a lot of mobility, the joints, etc. So with athletes, obviously high level gym work, but with normal people as well, just for them to go home and start getting back on track.
Okay. Are you an athlete yourself? You look very
I used to be, but of course with Indian roots, you need to have some sort of a career. So I had to do physio, which allows me to work in sport, but I do keep active myself.
Well, I used to in my youth. My excuses are many, but I try to go to the gym. My cameraman's a gym freak. Always lecturing us
That's
about
good.
what we should eat. Well, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
We're in a movie. We're very fast. I'm getting my first ever professional sports massage here at the Proactive Physio and Wellness Center. See ya. So we spent the day here at the Proactive Physiotherapy and Wellness Center. We've been speaking to Aniksha Trivedi, a physiotherapist who works with the national team, and not just in athletics, also in basketball and several other sports. And you've seen that getting proper treatment actually helps you perform to your ultimum. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. We will see you again on Radull Live. Bye-bye.